We are privileged to have these guests, which honestly, when we booked it last year, after everything went down, I wasn't sure if he'd be coming or not. Yeah. But these guys are from the Loveland Living Planet Aquarium, and they are here to give us a show, to teach you, to whatever. So I expect that you're on your best behavior. You're watching, you're listening, you're actively participating.
All right, awesome. So, like your teacher said, my name is Renata, and this is Kayla, and we are from the Loveland Living Planet Aquarium. Has anybody ever been there before? Awesome. Put your hands down. See, today we brought a special program. So even if you've been to the aquarium, you would have not seen this. So only 4th graders in Utah get to see this program. We're all 4th graders, right? Yeah. Okay, we're in the right place. So we do have a lot of things that we want to do with you today, and we have a short amount of time. So your teacher mentioned some expectations, and we have this as well. So our first expectation is to be respectful. Now show me, if you have a question, what should you do? Awesome, quietly raise your hands. Does it count if you raise your hand and you yell at the answer? No, right? So quietly raise your hands. Be respectful to your classmates, to us, and to the materials that we have with us today. Now, we have a second expectation, and this one is really, really hard. We need you to have fun. You think you do that? Yeah. All right, so that means we want you to participate and ask questions, because it's going to be really boring if we're just standing up here talking the whole time and you're not participating. So you think you can have fun and be respectful? Yes? Yeah. Thumbs up if you can do that. Awesome. Those at home, I hope that you also enjoyed this presentation. So Kayla, tell us what we're going to be doing today.
Excellent. So today we have this awesome environments game of Utah with Kayla and Ramada. Yay! All right. So how this game works is we are going to go through each of the habitats or the environments that you can find right here in the state of Utah. And we have 2 choices. Now for each of these choices, you are either going to hear something, see something, or there is going to be a riddle. And you guys have to guess what the answer is. Now, for any answer that you have, I'm going to give you a huge hint to help you out. All the things that we are discussing are going to be here in Utah. So, are you ever going to hear the majestic call of a blue whale? No, blue whales don't live here in Utah, unfortunately. We're not by the ocean. Are we ever going to see the beautiful, bright pink feathers of a flamingo? No, we don't have flamingos here in Utah. The zoo and the aquarium do not count. It's one of the things that you would naturally find here in Utah. So, thumbs up if you got that. Excellent. So, we are going to start off our adventure in the forest. Who would like to raise their hand and pick 1 or 2? I prefer volunteers. All right, 1 or 2? 1. All right, this is going to be our nature noise. So we are going to play a sound for you, and you guys are going to get 3 guesses of what this is a noise of. And if you have a guess, remember to raise your hand and we'll call on you. All right, how about right here? A wolf? Oh, that is an excellent guess. This does sound a little bit like a wolf, but this is not a wolf. It's going to be smaller than a wolf. Smaller than a wolf. How about right here? A coyote? A coyote. Ooh, very, very close. So it is not a wolf. It's not a coyote. It's going to be even a little bit smaller. Right here.
Is it a fox?
It is a fox. Excellent job. Yes. So that sound was the sound of a red fox. Now that is only one sound that they can make. They actually have at least 40 different sounds that they can make. Sometimes they make more howling noises. Sometimes it's more like yips and barks. Sometimes it's going to be even like a screaming sound. They are absolutely amazing. Now, who can raise their hand and tell me, why would the fox want to live in the forest? Why is that a good home for the fox? Right here in the blue.
Because in the winter they can burrow down in their holes.
Yeah. Yeah, so the forest is going to be a good place for them to build shelter, for them to have a shelter. I like it. Excellent.
The type of food that they would eat is in the forest.
And what would they eat?
They would eat like mice and bugs and berries.
Excellent. Yeah, I hear someone say like berries or fruits. Yeah, so most of the time foxes are going to be carnivores. They're going to eat meat, but every once in a while they can eat berries or other like plant material. And all those things, can you find all those things in the forest? Yeah, you absolutely can. Excellent job. Let's move on to our picture puzzle. So how our picture puzzle works is I'm going to show you a picture of something that's zoomed in really, really close on something. And you have to tell me what the big picture would be. Sound good? All right. So, what is this a picture of? Make sure everyone has a chance to see. What is a picture of? Right here.
Is it a fish?
A fish?
Kind of looks like a fish.
What part of a fish would this be? Excellent. Yeah, this is the eye of a fish. Now this fish is really cool. I don't know if you've learned this yet, but this is actually the state fish. Let me know what the state fish of Utah is. Right here in blue.
Probably a trout.
It is a trout. Yes, this is the eye of a rainbow trout. An absolutely beautiful fish. Now, wait, hold on. Okay. So, a fish. Do fish live in forests?
No.
Well, let's think about that for a second. Where do you find water in the forest? Right in the back corner.
Lakes and rivers.
Yeah, can you guys find lakes and rivers in the forest?
Yes.
Yeah, you can find some lakes and rivers in the forest. And in those lakes and rivers, can you find animals like fish?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there going to be as much water in the forest as there is like in another area of Utah? Like the wetlands? No, but you can still find them in those rivers and lakes. You can still find really cool animals like the rainbow trout. Excellent job, everybody. So we have finished off our forest. Are you ready to move on to our deserts?
Yes. Excellent. Awesome. So before we start on the desert, I do have a question for all of you. Now, what do you think all of these environments have in common? What do you think they have in common? Yes.
They're all places where like animals can live and where they can do things that probably not everyone has to.
Yeah, so we can find animals and plants in all of these environments. Now, I don't know if you've learned this yet, but there are 3 things that animals need in order to survive in one of these environments. What are those 3 things?
They need food, they need water,
Where do we live? What do we call that?
Yes.
shelter.
Shelter. So food, water, and shelter. And can we find all of them in all these 3? Yeah, right? So we're going to meet some awesome animals coming up in this next few games that are able to live in these places because they have all of those 3 things. So just keep that in mind. All right, so let's see. Who would like to pick the number? Let's see, right here.
2.
Number 2. That is going to be another nature noise. So, Heels is going to play this noise. Something you find in the desert. That goes on for like a minute. Now, what do you think might have made that noise? Yes, right here.
A rattlesnake.
Ooh, that is an awesome guess because you can find rattlesnakes in the desert. But this is much smaller. Much smaller. Yes.
Meerkat.
A meerkat, not a meerkat. This is not going to have any fur. It's not going to have any fur. It's very small. Yes. A roadrunner, also an awesome guess. This is much smaller and it's very jumpy. Very jumpy. And bumpy. What do you think?
A grasshopper.
Not a grasshopper, but this might be a grasshopper. I'm going to give you just one more guess. This is a very jumpy friend, very bumpy, that you can find in the desert. It's very surprising. What do you normally think you find in the desert? Yeah. Ooh, what is a cousin of a frog? Of a frog. What else could it be that is a little bumpier and grumpier? If you think you know how to say it.
Lizard.
Toad. I heard a lot of things, but it is a toad.
Yeah.
Yes, this is the red spotted toad. Yeah. Did you guys know that toads live in the desert? No? So now that you see this, because this can live in the deserts here in Utah, what do you think might help them survive here in the desert? See, and the green.
The sunlight.
How would the sunlight help the red spotted toad? Yes.
So they can go like this. So they can go through.
So they can find food? Yeah, so I mean, if it's their sun, they'll be able to find some food. Now, toads, they need water. All amphibians need some water in order to survive. Because they dry up really quickly. So being in the desert, they have to be very creative. So you see those red bumps on its skin?
Yeah.
Those are kind of like water bottles. When you go to the desert, you bring water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are little fat stores where they can keep some of that moisture so that they can stay in the desert and survive a little longer than they would if they didn't have those little water bottles. So they have been able to adapt to survive in a place like the desert here in Utah, which is pretty cool. All right, let's do our first riddle of the day. Now, I'm going to read you this riddle, and you have to guess what it is, okay? Left behind by something that slithers on the ground, lightweight and scaly, these sometimes can be found. Yes.
Rattlesnake.
Ooh, a rattlesnake. So maybe a rattlesnake would leave this behind. So it's part of the snake. Let's see. What do you think?
Skin that the snake would shed on.
Yeah, exactly. It is snake shed. Yeah. So snakes need to shed their skin. Does anybody know why? Why do I need to do that? Yeah.
So, when they grow bigger, their skin gets too small for them.
Yeah.
And they shed their skin.
Now, do you wear the same clothes you were wearing when you were a little kid? When you were a baby? No, right? You also grew, and so your clothes needed to change. So for the snakes, they also, when they grow, they need to shed that skin. Do you shed your skin?
No.
We do. Except we do it in tiny, tiny little particles. Every time you scratch your arms or even scratch your head, you lose and shed some skin. Except snakes, they do it all in one piece, which is really, really awesome. Why would you find snakes in the desert? Why would you find them in the desert? Yeah.
Because there's lots of places for them to go, and because it's the right environment.
Yeah, so they can find some holes where they can rest up, right? What else?
Because in the desert, they can find like mice and rats to eat.
Yeah, so they can find some food as well in the desert. There are a lot of rats. There's little mice that they can eat, and they are cold-blooded animals. So they do like being in the warmth of the desert. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and travel over to the wetlands. All right, let's go to the wetlands. So for the wetlands, who wants to kind of tell me how the wetlands is different from the desert and from the forest? What makes it different from those environments? Yes, sir.
It has more water and green stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot more water in the wetlands. It has a pretty good name for that, wetlands, but it's going to have lots of water. Excellent. Is there anything else that makes it different?
So, like, there's a lot of water, they can put like trees that on it, or animals see that.
Wow, awesome. So because there's a lot more water, there's going to be probably a lot more plants that can grow there since plants need water. Excellent. So who would like to raise a plant and pick 1 or 2 for our wetlands game? You picked already, how about you put your hand down? Just make sure. All right, right here. Number 2. All right, so that is going to be our riddle. So, squishy and wet. This thing is not alive. Acting like a sponge, this helps the wetlands thrive. What could that mean? Right here. Dirt. Dirt. Oh, you are so incredibly close. What do you call dirt when it's squishy and wet? Yes.
Mud.
Mud, yes. Or as we sometimes like to call it, soil, wetland soil. So, why would wetland soil allow wetlands to thrive, like it said in the riddle? How does it, wetlands, yeah.
Well, I need to find that. Bugs down the hole.
Yeah, so there's like some animals like bugs or other insects that can find their home in the soil. Excellent. Yeah, that's going to help wetlands thrive, or things that live in wetlands thrive.
They can hide it.
Yeah, animals can find shelter. Awesome.
Bugs can grow.
Excellent. Yeah, because do plants just like grow by like floating in the air? No, you don't find trees floating in the air or other plants. They need to have a place to put down their roots. And the soil, the wetland soil, it acts like a sponge. It's going to soak up water. And so when plants dig their roots down into the soil, they can use the water that's in that soil. Pretty cool, right? Yep. Awesome job. All right, let's do our very last picture puzzle. Now this one's a little tough, so I'm gonna let you guys get 5 guesses for this one. So raise your hand if you think you know what this is a picture of. This be a picture of. Thank you so much. How about right here? A snake. This actually does look like a snake, right? Because it looks really scaly like a snake. This is not a snake.
Bigger scale.
Right here. Yes.
Is it a crocodile?
A crocodile. Oh, a really cool reptile. Fortunately, we do not have crocodiles here in Utah. And in fact, this does not come from a reptile at all.
Like bearded dragon or something?
So bearded dragons are very cool. Bearded dragons are reptiles, so they're going to be like lizards and snakes. So this is not going to be any type of reptile. It would be mostly covered in fur, except for this part of its body.
I know.
Purple. Some type of bird. Oh, another excellent guess. So it's going to be covered in fur and some feathers. I have really, this part of its body is going to be really flat. That's in the wetlands. Yes.
And now otter.
An otter. Oh, you guys are so incredibly close. But this is going to be an animal that like has like buck teeth.
A
It's a beaver. Yeah, I know. It's so crazy, right? That's my the beaver. So, who can go ahead and tell me, why would the beaver want to live in wetlands? What? Yeah, so they use the water to swim, and what do they build on the water? Yeah, they build dams. And let me tell you why those dams are so important for the wetlands. When you build a dam,
easily. Thank you.
like the beaver does, it backs up the water. And when you back up the water and it spreads out everywhere, what would you call that type of environment? You guys can call it out this time. Yeah, so beavers build wetlands. They are so critically important. Without the beavers, we would not have as many wetlands. And so many animals need these wetlands to survive. So, excellent job, everybody. Good job with our game. Give yourselves a little round of applause. Awesome. So, we are going to get the chance to meet some animals that live here in the state of Utah. So, in order to meet these animals, though, we need to remember to keep our voices down. So, what do you do if you have a question or a comment? Yeah, just quietly raise your hand. These animals are going to be really cool. So, if you would like to say that they're really cool, I'm going to teach you a little bit of sign language. Put your thumb to your chest like this, and wiggle your fingers around. That means cool. So we are going to bring out some really cool animals. The first animal that Renata is going to bring out, I want you guys to do is make some observations about this animal. I also want you guys to ask questions. And if you have a guess which environments this animal would live in, we would love to hear that as well. And maybe explain why you think it would live in that environment. So this first animal that Renata is bringing out is king tut.
A milk snake.
Quite a milk snake. Well, remember, raise your hand if you have comments. So this snake right here, his name is king tut.
Oh, I know.
He is a Sonoran mountain king snake. Now, while Kalis is getting our second animal that you'll be meeting, I want you to just take a look at king tut and in your mind just make some observations and maybe come up with some questions that you might have about it. Okay? Now, Kalis is going to be bringing out another reptile. This reptile is also a snake. Now, it looks very different than king tut, so we're going to be making some observations again. Looking at it, seeing what the differences they are. So that is going to be Humphrey. Whoa, my God.
Would you mind bringing it just so that put that closer up for the camera?
Yes.
So like the guys at home can see them.
Yes. We'll try and get it set over.
There you go.
Yeah, so this is my friend Humphrey.
Is it a red
It's
snake?
just
Humphrey
Calvin.
is a gopher snake, a Great Basin gopher snake.
Thank you.
Morgan, come here. This is a giant snake.
I'll turn around Humphrey for our friends at home to see. Remember, raise your hand if you have any comments. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and start answering some questions and comments. Yes, in the back.
Are we allowed to touch it?
So right now we are not going to be able to touch it, just for the animal safety and for your safety as well. It's pretty hard to sanitize a snake. So we're just going to be looking, but if you're curious as to what it feels like, it is very, very smooth. So kind of like a soccer ball smooth. So it has scales, but it is pretty smooth.
He's pretty active today.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the last couple of years, they've brought him. He just kind of sat there.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been cooped up for a while, so they're, I think, pretty stoked to be out and about. Now, how about Humphrey? Do you think Humphrey feels just as smooth as king tut, or do you think he feels different? Raise your hand if you think. Let's see, what do you think Humphrey might feel like? Yeah, so Humphrey is going to feel a little bit different because Humphrey and king tut have different types of scales. So king tut has a scale called a shield scale. That means if you zoomed up really, really close to his scales, they would be a little bit rounded on the top and look like a shield. But Humphrey, on the other hand, has a type of scale that is called a keeled scale. That means there's going to be a little bump right in the middle of the scale. So he's going to feel a little bit more bumpy, maybe a little bit closer to a basketball rather than a soccer ball. Excellent. So I would like to raise your hand and tell us any like observations or questions that you have about these animals. All right.
Once we found a snake out in the wild, and then we put it in this big bin, except then it started to let us hold it and stuff.
So some snakes in the wild, or some snakes like our friend Humphrey and King Tut, they're going to be comfortable enough to allow us to pick them up and hold them because they've been around people for a long time. Snakes in the wild, though, it's usually not a great idea to pick them up and touch them because we are such huge animals compared to even a large gopher snake like Humphrey. And if you had like a really large animal come up to you, what might you do? What might you do?
So if there's a pretty large animal coming up to you, you want to act like you're larger than it so it might scare it away. Like you want to be the bigger. So
Yeah, so you could do things like to try and maybe like trick a potential predator into thinking you're more dangerous or scary than you actually are. And that's something that Humphrey does, in fact. So Humphrey works a lot like a rattlesnake. So he will make himself look even more like a rattlesnake by making his head look bigger and a little bit more like a triangle. And he will also shake his tail back and forth, even though he doesn't have a rattle, just in case he has like dry grass or leaves around, so that he might sound a little bit like a rattlesnake.
Awesome. Let's see. Right over here.
How come he's all red and stuff?
Oh, so you notice this coloration. So sometimes animals have this thing called camouflage. What happens when they have camouflage? What does that mean? Yeah. So when an animal has camouflage, they blend in, right, with the environment. Their colors, kind of like Humphrey here, they blend in with the environment, their surroundings, so that they're not seen. King Tut here, though, he has pretty bright colors. He's doing kind of the opposite of that. And that's because there's another snake that he is copying. He's mimicking another snake that's very venomous. I don't know if anyone's heard of that snake before. Let's see. Do you know what snake I'm going to be talking about? Yeah. Ooh, not a python. You can find the snake here in Utah. Yes. Yep. Probably like rattlesnake. So not a rattlesnake. It's called a coral snake. Has anyone ever heard of that snake before? So a coral snake has a very similar pattern. It has red, it has yellow, and it has black, except they are in different places. Now, if there is a big bird flying around trying to find some food, and it's saw King Tut here, do you think he would be able to tell the difference between the coral snake and him? No. Probably not. So the pattern is very close, very similar. And King Tut here is not a venomous snake. Whoops, sorry. But he pretends like he is so that other animals don't want to eat it. So it's a good defense mechanism. And something really cool about King Tut is that he can eat coral snakes. Yeah, even though coral snakes are venomous, he is protected. He has this awesome thing in his body that allows it to be able to eat coral snakes and not be affected by their venom. Awesome. Any other questions?
Right here.
Every snake pattern are different, even though they come from the same family, right?
Yeah, so every snake is going to be a little bit unique, but you can use certain patterns to determine what type of snake it's going to be. So in Utah, we have So these gophers, you can use like the patterns, like you see on Humphrey, to determine if it's a gopher snake. But yeah, each like individual snake is going to have slightly different patterns, just like how we have unique fingerprints. All right. How about right here?
Do they bite?
Do they bite? Do you guys bite?
Well,
What do you guys bite? Food.
Food.
Yeah, and it's the same with Humphrey and King Tut. They do have teeth. They are able to bite, but they are only going to bite their food. And are Renata and myself food for these animals? Nope. So they are not going to bite us because they are not food, and they don't see us as a potential threat or dangerous.
Awesome. Now, before we say goodbye to these animals, we do have one question for you. Where do you think these animals live? Where do you think you might find King Tut and Humphrey? In the forest, desert, or wetlands? Raise your hand if you think the forest. Why do you think you live in the forest?
I think King Tut will live in the forest since it's a lot higher and there's a lot more things you can eat.
Okay. What about Humphrey? You think you live in the forest? No?
No.
All right. Where do you think Humphrey might live? Where do you think he might live? You agree?
The desert.
The desert. Why the desert?
Because you said that he acts like a rattlesnake and rattlesnakes are mostly in the desert.
Yeah, so you should find rattlesnakes in the desert, so probably he lives in the desert. Now, what about the wetlands? Do you think either of these animals live in the wetlands?
because that's it. It's like next to the wetlands where there's a tree in the fall, it can hide the beaks that are hiding.
Maybe you'll find some shelter. I like that. Right. So, the really cool thing about both of these snakes is that they are actually found in every single one of these environments. What? Yeah, these snakes are really amazing. They have lots of these adaptations and lots of these different features that allow them to live in each of these environments. So since they live in each of these environments, and we can visit or even live in these environments, do you think they might need our help a little bit to make sure they can live there safely?
Yeah.
Yep, they absolutely do, because these animals are so important. They help to keep these environments healthy by controlling the populations of other animals like mice or other snakes. So what we can do to help them out is we can learn more about them and share what we have learned about them with other people. So raise your hand if you learned something cool about these animals or these environments. Awesome. Raise your other hand or both hands if you learned something cool and had fun meeting these animals. Awesome. I want you guys to bring your hands together. I want you to look around like our friend snakes and then swiggle your attention back to your teacher.